Noel Nation, welcome into another episode of the Renegade Rundown. As always, more and more news coming through. We get two more transfer portal prospects since the last time we saw you guys in Roydell Williams and Richie Leonard. We have two special guests with us today. My guy, friend of the show, Kelvin Hunt from ChopChat.com and the Built for Playmakers podcast. And that's his channel right here on YouTube at Built for Playmakers podcast. Check him out, Kelvin Hunt. Also on the bottom right-hand corner, we have Jesse Coger from PlantTheSpear.com and also at Plant the Spear right here on YouTube. Plant the Spear 1 on X. I believe Kelvin's is KH Chop Chat on X. And of course, as always, below me, Jennifer Santi, aka at Jen Santi 1890 on X. Man, we got a full panel. Excited to talk to you guys today. And I guess we'll start off right where I just mentioned it with Roydell Williams and Richie Leonard. Whoever wants to go first, how fired up? We'll start with Roydell Williams. I know I absolutely love the take of the Alabama running back.
Yeah, man, I'm excited about this guy too. And I know some people will look at the numbers and think that there wasn't a lot of production there. But, man, when you turn on the tape and you see what this guy can do, I think it's what the best thing about getting Williams is the fit he brings to your room. You know, the 5'10", 215, when you watch the guy, I mean, he has power, he has patience, and he has some vision, which is what I like. You know, he's at the same time when you watch the tape, he's not a burner. He doesn't really have breakaway speed. He gets caught in open field a lot. But, man, there's some of these highlights where you can see, like, you thought he was down, and then he just busts through the pile. So, we talked on the last show I was on about how Florida State really their power back option was going to be a freshman, in Cam Davis. And I think this gives you another option who's a little bit more seasoned than Cam to have that power back. But, I still hope to see a lot of Cam this year as well.
Yeah, for sure. I would agree. I think you're looking at probably a Trayshawn Ward, slightly bigger, stronger version with the vision and experience. Like you said, you got Todd Philly coming in next year as the most experienced back. And, running back isn't that difficult to come in and get PT as a freshman, but it's always great to have that experience and depth, obviously. And I love what Roydell brings. And obviously, I'm on record as saying, any running back that Norvell puts back there usually is productive. So, it's definitely a great get, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I love it because I think the power back, he's kind of a real power runner. He's almost, I'm not going to say Trey Benson, but that's kind of the mold I see him taking on a little bit. Because you can't really replace Trey Benson, but that's kind of where I see it. Very strong. And honestly, anybody from Bama, just bring him on over. I guess that's why Mike didn't have to leave, because he can just bring him to him.
I will say, too, one thing that stands out, too, when I was doing some research on him, knock on wood, so this doesn't happen at Florida State, but 111 carries, 0 fumbles. So I'll take that all day long. A guy who protects the ball, you can't be mad at that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's something that Trey Benson did well. So for sure, that is something you can put in the same category.
Yeah, it's an interesting mix of traits because he has kind of that power that Trey Benson has, but like y'all mentioned, that's not necessarily the top end, more of a, hit the gaps. He's a little bit better vision than Trey, more like Trayshawn in that way. But, man, 0 fumbles, super tough guy. Can't wait to see what Mike Norvell is going to have for him and to be able to trust that guy to get your 3 or 4, hit the gap, make that first read, that first big cut. That's going to be real nice. And I can't wait to see, with him, Keziah Holmes, and you mentioned Lawrence Toafili coming back with all that experience. There's going to be some fun 2-back sets, some fun wildcat stuff. Really fun. Before we go on to Richie Leonard, let's stick on this Bama thing because it really is wild. You look down the list now. I think we're up to 4 or 5. You've got Earl Little Jr., you got Malik Benson, Roydell Williams, of course, and then Terrence Ferguson, the offensive lineman. A lot of people, there's kind of a narrative like, oh, you're getting these backup guys. Obviously, it's kind of for more mouth breather fans, more casual stuff. None of us are talking like that. But, we've talked a lot about it on the show about how the importance of finishing second. But to be able to get so many guys in that are like, for example, Malik Benson, Jalen Brown comes in from LSU. He's got 4 years. He's like basically a redshirt freshman. and just ready to, spend all that time in your system. You've got like 20 guys coming off the back end. I think 18 outgoing transfers. How big is it to be able to like replace the bottom, like the floor of your program with, 4 and 5 stars? I mean, it's really kind of an underrated thing. These guys were just high school kids last year or the year before. I know there's not much of a question, but if y'all wanted to speak on that, it's kind of just, it really sticks in my craw, and it's something we talk a lot about.
Yeah, man, I think you make a great point, because the funny thing is, like you said, some of the mouth breather fan bases, they'll try and make fun of you for taking transfers. But if you had landed these guys a year ago or 2 years ago in a high school class, everybody would have been like, wow, this is a great commitment. So it's like, at the same time, now you're getting a guy who has had a year or two, in some cases, of college development. And, again, if you're being developed at a place like Alabama, obviously you're getting good coaching. I mean, you could argue some of the other schools, maybe your coaching is better than theirs, but you're still in a college level strength and conditioning program, a nutrition program. So you get them more physically developed than straight out of high school. Cause we love a lot of the guys in the 24 class, but when you saw them at the Orange Bowl practices, the one thing that stands out is they need a year in the weight room, before they really look like a college body type of player. And so I think it's great to be able to lean on the portal to get some guys that can also be evaluated on college tape, where you can see what they can do against college level competition. And, I think that is important in the scouting process by a staff that has shown us they can identify talent. So if you can identify talent against college level competition, that's a little bit, you could take that to the bank a little bit more than you can against high school competition. So, I'm all in favor of it. I think you build out of both buckets. You know what I mean? People talk about high school versus portal. I think you build out of both. I mean, why not?
Only team with top 10 in both so far. I mean,
like it's there. The resources are there. You'd be dumb not to use it.
They keep saying it's not sustainable, but how many years, Kelvin? This is what, the third year in a row? Like, is it really not sustainable to get these DNs and stuff out of the portal? Keeps happening.
Yeah, well, with the way that guys can transfer now anytime they want, yeah, it's sustainable. Until they change it, it's definitely sustainable. I mean, and the key to it is, as a staff, obviously you have to be able to evaluate, just hitting the point. If you can evaluate talent, you're going to be able to find the guys that you need and plug and play where you have holes on the roster. And he's right. Especially when you're talking about in the trenches, offensive line, defensive line, defensive end, it takes at least a year, sometimes two, especially on the O-line, for these guys to come in and get physically ready to play. That's why you haven't seen Armella or Jalen Early and those guys from 2022 yet. And usually when you put them in there too early, you wind up getting ragdolled and getting hurt. Mm-hmm. That's why you've seen offensive line have some years with Norvell, because guys had to play. So getting these guys that come in that have experience but can play, multiple years, I mean, that allows your younger guys to develop. That's kind of what they've been doing for the past year or so with Armella and Early. But, I obviously expect those guys to contribute this year as well. So it's a win-win situation all the way around.
Yeah, I think they had on three said there was over 2,000 kids hit the portal this year. I mean, there's going to be something to pick through. Whether it solves all your needs, that can be the gamble. But I mean, there's going to be players in there every year. So to say it's completely not sustainable is, it just might not. You might not get 4 and 5 stars exactly where you need them, but I mean, there's going to be players available to make up for certain areas for sure.
Just a heads up to the chat. We have a lot of fun, but y'all be careful talking shit about Jen and stuff. You'll get booted. Sorry to interrupt you guys with that. Just, getting a little bit out there with the comments, I thought. Just a warning.
Must be a Miami fan.
It was no. I said in the chat that my hair was driving me nuts because I had gone outside in the snow, so it's kind of getting big and I keep seeing it. So I told people I was going to be touching my hair. I'm sorry. So then that's why they responded. Because I felt myself kept going like this. My hair is curly, guys, and if I get it wet and then it dries naturally, it can start to get big, especially when I get in this room shut off. So it's gonna be driving me nuts. It might get this big by the time we get done. We'll see. I got the heat on in here, so maybe it won't. I don't know.
Well, maybe I just misunderstood it, but yeah, this has been a lot of fun, and it's it's pretty funny. we've seen some of these reports get corroborated, and you're kind of up next. This is right down your alley. Something that me and Jen talked about. That call seems like it was made. It's been reported by several different outlets. Alabama really wanted Mike. I mean, it's pretty telling, the kind of thing that told the story was him getting Terrence Ferguson to commit. That was the first kind of thing that proved it. And then we find out our buddies are over there, chopping it up at Mandarin High School with him, and he's recruiting Jamie French, another possible flip from guess where? Alabama, that morning. So do you have anything on that, Jen?
Okay, repeat that. I'm sorry, you were kind of cutting out for me.
The coaching staff, how Mike Norvell, it's pretty much confirmed, I thought, out there that he was contacted by Alabama, and he was, whether he was their second or whatever, he was at one point in time at top of their board, and they wanted him. It's pretty telling. He pretty much broke the news that he was staying by the commitment of Terrence Ferguson, and he was at Mandarin High School with our friends recruiting and everything else.
Okay, so I can tell you Mike was contacted. I can tell you some things went on there. I don't think he was really that interested, to be honest. I think he wanted to stay at Florida State. I think he loves Florida State. But yes, he was someone that they were very, very interested in. I think if you want to read Bama Online for your news, you're welcome to do that. You're welcome to also believe that Grubb turned down the head coaching job at Washington to come be an offensive coordinator at Alabama. You're welcome to believe that if you would like to. I also have a beachfront property here in Memphis that I would sell you for $20 if that's really what you believe. I think with Mike, I think, I think a lot of schools, I think Texas A&M also is interested in him. I don't think that was just some BS either. All schools are going to have him on their list, and that's a good sign. And if you guys don't remember when we used to troll on Dabo Swinney all the time before he hired and got the Venables and the Jeff Scotts of the world, right? We would make fun of Clemson all the time. Well, your coach is never on a list. And to be honest, Dabo really isn't on that many lists until now. Because they didn't think they could get him out of Clemson. And also, I don't know that he's allowed to call plays. I think we all know that. No offense. This is not offense to Dabo. He's kind of a CEO coach. And that's worked for him. He needs to hire some better assistants, but that's fine too. I think he has now. But yes, I think Alabama was very interested in Coach Norvell. This is not yes, everybody wants to make fun of Jimmy Sexton. Y'all leave Jimmy alone. He's doing his job. But he wouldn't be going back to Florida State if there wasn't interest from the other side. He has to prove something. This isn't just trying to get money. No school is just going to say, oh, well, you're just calling me because you've put his name on a list. I understand that happens. Houston Nutt used to be on every list, if y'all remember this. Houston Nutt was on every list. Who was the other guy that was on? Tommy Tuberville was on every list. I get it that it does happen, but in this case, Florida State is too big of a school for him to do that to. You can do that to the Ole Miss and the Arkansas of the world. Like, you can do that to, the Miamis of the world. But, you can't, as connected as Florida State is, especially with McCullough, especially with Michael Alford, it's too hard. You can't just go throw out names and then there not be any substance behind it to make this deal with Coach Norvell. I'm sorry. If they didn't think or had proof that Alabama was really after him, do you think they would have gone into $1 million? Because they wouldn't have. They wouldn't.
Yeah, the timing wouldn't make sense unless there was a real offer out there. I agree with you 100%. That's why I wanted to get your opinion on it. And it's pretty funny, all the reports out there, everybody putting Mike Norvell at the top of the list. It was all the reasons they named off was the exact same reasons that Florida State was left out of the playoffs. So I thought that was pretty funny. And I also want to know what you guys think about, Mike said no. It was like a power move. Like, how big of a statement is that for recruiting moving forward? And I promise we'll get back into the transfer portal. But I mean, you look at DeBoer and what he's got going on over there. He's basically cucked by Nick Saban. Somebody put a video out there on X, and he's like over in the corner by himself, and it's like Nick Saban just holding trial right there in the middle of the conference room. It's like, it's pretty rough. I don't think you could have more swag. And is there a coach, a school more kind of with more momentum, more on fire than Florida State right now?
You know, I think when you talk about the coaching search, in my eyes, DeBoer it's a great hire. I mean, you look at his record, I think it's like 104-12 or something crazy like that. So he's a good coach. Obviously, my concern is he doesn't really have any ties to the South. He's been in the North pretty much his whole career. We'll see how that works with the recruiting. I think he'll probably have to get some recruiters in there. But I think it is big for Florida State for him to turn the job down, Mike Norvell, that is. And, you know, this was something that I had talked about with Dan Lanning in the episode that we did, where it was like, I mean, they're Big Ten now. They got Big Ten money. That pays more than the SEC currently. You also have Nike money in your pocket. Like, you are, with DeBoer leaving, you are now the premier school really in that northwest corner. You don't have a lot of the recruiting battles against a lot of the SEC schools in the Southeast. You know, you have your roster's already stocked. You got 2 5-stars there. You got your staff in place. It was kind of like, why leave? I just don't like, maybe if you had the uncertainty of the Pac-2 going forward, maybe, but they didn't have that anymore. So it was like, why bother? And then the same principle to me applied with Mike Norvell. You have a top 10 program. You have facilities coming online. Obviously, you can't blame him for playing the offer. I mean, if he was truly offered by Alabama and you wanted to get some more guarantees, I don't think it was necessarily about the money, but maybe some of the guarantees for the assets of the program that they're going to be willing to invest in, you know, to get you to that level. Because, I mean, let's not beat around the bush. You go look at Alabama's facilities, they're second to none. They're in the SEC. All that's great. But like we joke, everybody wants the Alabama job. Nobody wants it first. Nobody wants to be under, you know, they're literally building Saban an office there at the facility. Like, nobody wants to do that. So that's crazy. And I think with DeBoer, you have more of like they're successful as a lot of Penix. And when he leaves, you're not guaranteed that. So you probably want to cash in on that now. And Mike has really restocked this roster already. You know, and I'm sure he knows a lot of the inside information about where this lawsuit stands, if Florida State's even going to be in the ACC, how they feel about that. So if you know your school is probably going to end up in the Big Ten, you've already restocked your roster, you got your staff built, you got some promises of these facilities, man, I just don't really see a point in leaving when you've worked so hard to get the program where it is. And let's be honest, man, he went through hell to get there. So, like, I'm sure Mike seems like, and I mean, everybody can seem genuine, but Mike Norvell really does seem like a genuine guy who really cares about the people in the process and that he wants to see it through. And for him to leave at that point where the program is right now, feels like it would have been kind of going against everything he rebuilt this program on. And so it's exciting, man. You know, again, I mean, you know, you don't want to go too far into the omens, but the last guy that turned down Alabama for Florida State, you know, you just.
Oh, man, you took the words out of my mouth. I was going to cue Kelvin up. I mean, yeah, it's literally like the anniversary to the date when Bobby Bowden did it. Right. You know what I mean? So it's just, it really is amazing. I don't know if you had anything on that, Kelvin.
That was crazy, man. I when I read that, I was like, oh, wow, that's too crazy. But yeah, I agree. I agree with Jen too. I think Mike probably wasn't really interested in the job per se, but, you know, he knew he needed certain guarantees as far as, you know, where are we as far as leaving the ACC, as far as, you know, resources for recruiting and things like that. And then when you look at it, it's like, you know, it's like you were building a mansion here in Tally. You know, if you take the Alabama job, you're basically moving into something that Nick created, you know, so even if you have success, you're not going to get real credit for it. Right. And, you know, when you look at it, you know, Mike's a really strategic guy. Mike's like, you know, if I tell them no, you know, I can use that on the recruiting trail. And I guarantee you, he's already told every single top guy out there, you look, hey, I'm here in Tally. This is where I wanted to be. I could have left and went to Alabama. I didn't, you know, so come to Tally. And, you know, it's definitely a great situation to be in. It felt like, I don't know, it's crazy. It felt like, you know, I said the other day, you know, sometimes on the timeline, you can have fans go up and down emotionally without anything really happening. But it felt like once, you know, it kind of was confirmed that he was staying, that it felt like there was a whole bunch of pressure just fell off the program itself. And it just felt like, you know, the momentum just, you know, just kind of took over. It felt like, and you knew that FSU was going to be, one of the top programs for the foreseeable future.
Yeah,
absolutely.
One
Go
thing
ahead,
I will say to what Kelvin, he just brought up a thought. He made a great point. Is when you look at the recruiting, I think this is huge for Florida State, because after the snub, everybody kind of thought, like, is he gonna be happy at an ACC school where he feels like he has a glass ceiling until they get out of that conference? There could have been some negative recruiting. There could have at least been, coaches saying, is he going to take X job, Y job, Z job, whatever comes open every year. You pretty much just told one of the top three current, with the facilities and resources and everything, one of the top three jobs in the country. No, whether how hard of a no that was or not, but you still turned them down to stay at Florida State and to get that extension, to get that money. Because again, Nick Saban was only making just north of 11 million. Dabo's making like 10.5. And so now Mike's one of the highest paid coaches in the country. I think now you can pretty much shut down any kind of rumors or anything like that, where the foundation is here to stay for a long time. And that's got to pay dividends in recruiting. When everyone thought, like, is he going to want to stay at an ACC school?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Jimmy Sexton reps the three guys that got the raises, but not the guy that got the job. So that goes to show you just how bad they wanted those. Really, I had read that DeBoer wasn't repped by Jimmy.
Oh no, DeBoer hired Jimmy about 6 months ago.
Okay,
and so
bam,
that should tell everybody. And also, DeBoer was at Washington, and the AD that hired him left for USC. So he also wasn't with the AD that hired him anymore. He just hired Jimmy Sexton, who is well known to get, guys, the SEC jobs, or the ones in the South, the ones, where you can, so he just hired him about 6 to 7 months ago. Everybody that was telling me when I was saying, guys, I think it's DeBoer, I don't think it's Mike, although I know for a fact that Lanning was their first call. Lanning was their first call. Like, Alabama can say whatever they want. You can go whichever route you want to go. But I do think it was supposed to be Lanning. I think they thought it was going to be Lanning. I think they thought it was Lanning that whole night until he said no the next morning. Again, people can tell me I'm wrong if they want to and listen to the Alabama AD, who was technically maybe not lying. Maybe he didn't get a full contract to sign, but we know how that works. And the smoke was there. Everybody knew where Alabama was going to go first. Although for years it was supposed to be Dabo Swinney. So I think if you want to put a gun to my head, I think Lanning was number one and Coach Norvell was number two.
Yeah.
Well,
that
if he hires coordinators like he hires agents choosing Jimmy Sexton, then he's going to be fine at Alabama. That's for sure. But man, did you see the video? Did that not look like a prison release video where they walked them through the airport or whatever?
Well, you have to put them back by barbed wire. It's like animals at the zoo, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
Come on.
I can't remember whether it was Kelvin or Jesse that hit on it a minute ago, talking about Mike Norvell immediately using this for recruiting. The fact that he turned it down.
I would.
And I'm going to steal a story here. If you guys saw the other show, you heard it. Either James, I believe James told it, or Chris won. No, it was definitely James. Basically, when he showed up down there to Mandarin, that's what he said. He's like, look, actions, and I'm paraphrasing here. It was something about priorities. He's showing what his priorities are right now. While the whole world's talking about Bama, this, and he's the number one candidate, his butt was in Jacksonville at Mandarin High School, recruiting Jamie French, recruiting Drake Stubbs, these elite talents, including our quarterback commit and Tramel Jones Jr. for 2024 or 2025, excuse me. So you love to see it. I really, really, really would love to see Jamie French in this class. And if you follow the tea leaves, it looks like there is a very good chance that he is that next guy. But getting back to just the transfer portal overall, the next big guy to get added to the class was Richie Leonard, a guy that Alex Atkins wanted out of high school, ends up going to Florida. And regardless of what you see the Florida fans say on Twitter or X or Facebook or Instagram, he was probably their best offensive lineman of all of last year. And to get somebody like that to come in and possibly be a swing guy or lock down one of those guard spots. I don't even know if he can play center, but really curious to hear y'all's thoughts on Richie Leonard and where he'll fit into this offensive line.
Yeah, he absolutely can play center. He mentioned that in one of his interviews when he was on campus. Obviously, you can play the interior as well, guard. You're losing Casey Roddick. You're losing Emmanuel. You got a proven guy that has played a lot of games and very experienced. So he provides that as well as depth at the spot where you lose two guys that played a lot for you last year. So versatility, experience, production. I'll take it all day, every day.
Yeah, I echo what Kelvin says. I mean, you got a guy here who started every game for Florida last year in the SEC, over 1,200 snaps of experience during his time there. Again, this is another guy that's physically developed at the college level that can come in and plug and play right away as an offensive lineman, which he touched on earlier. Sometimes that takes 3 years. So you have a guy who's ready to step in and play. And, again, no matter what the Florida fans say, we know Alex Atkins is a really good coach, and sometimes coaching can improve on things, with a player. Just because he didn't maybe, he might have been their best O-lineman there, but that doesn't mean he's at a ceiling. You can get some good coaching and you can still work on his technique and get more out of him. But I think the one thing, too, to keep in mind with just some of these guys, as you saw the battles in, re-sign a lot of the offensive line before they took two guys, Mike Norvell really learned a lesson in depth in 2022 and having depth and having experienced depth who can come in and not have a drop off. You got to see a lot of what lack of depth did in the Orange Bowl. Again, that was a lot of young guys who weren't really ready. And so you bring in these veterans. So to me, I like the take because, I mean, as much depth as you can build at every position, that's never a bad thing. Whether this guy, whether he starts the next 12, 14, 15 games for you, or whether he's just a backup in case somebody gets hurt. I think it's very important to have experienced depth, especially at a position like the offensive line.
Yeah, no doubt, man. No doubt. To go along with Terrence Ferguson, to go along with your starting tackle that comes back and Robert Scott, Maurice Smith comes back. So the competition, it just seems like in the floor of that room, just yet again, another year has raised. And, we've been talking about coaching searches. Jed Fish looks to have locked down the Washington one. But Jen, was there a coach on our staff that was being targeted for that Washington job possibly?
Yeah, they had Alex Atkins on the list. We didn't think he was going to go, but our buddy Chris over at Spheratics had put out a video just to let people know. But I think Alex Atkins was on there for a reason. He's a great coach. He's a great offensive line coach. He's going to be a great head coach one day. I didn't really see that happening. Honestly, I am surprised. I did hear Jed Fish. I think we had talked about it earlier today, George. I was hearing Jed Fish, but Friday I had heard he wasn't interested. Yesterday I heard something changed. I don't know what it is. Don't ask me. I don't think it's money. I think when we see those contracts come out, I think you're going to be surprised at what he's being paid. Now, my question is, what changed? Because Arizona is loaded. Arizona's loaded. I'm guessing he can take the team with him, right? I mean, we know how the transfer portal works right now. But I'm just saying, going from Arizona to Washington, I know people don't understand that, but that's a huge culture change. That's a different I know they both were in the Pac-12, but these are two different areas. So, I'm not really sure. I didn't do the background on Jed Fish. Has he been in those Washington type states before? Because I know he was the offensive coordinator at Miami. He's been he's literally been everywhere. I honestly thought he would hold out and see if he would get the Florida job next year. I'm telling you, that's kind of what I thought. But you guys let me know what you think, because I'm a little confused. I'm a little confused, but it's nothing against Washington at all. I think it's a great program. It's just, for me, it's hard to see a guy going from such a loaded team with that school giving him everything he wants. Arizona really just they're going to probably be in the 12-team playoff next year. No question. Or were, So is something going on there?
Didn't Arizona go to the Big 12?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just glad that Alex Atkins, as soon as his name was out of it, that's what I'm happy about. And the fact that you have somebody going from an Arizona kind of the ripple effect is a lot less than if it would have been somebody from the southeast. I can't speak too much on Jed Fisher, what he has going on. Do you guys have any comments on that?
No, not really. I mean, maybe he saw that, Washington's going to be a Big Ten school, and then you got Arizona's going to be in the Big 12, and once you lose
money
in Oklahoma, how much is that money going to be? So I think it's maybe just the future. And again, this is a program that at the same time, it just played for a national championship. So, I mean, it's proven that you can get there from that school, especially with Big Ten money. I mean, maybe it makes sense. I mean, it looks like from his Wikipedia, he's been a lot of places, but it never really in the looks like he was at Seattle Seahawks for a little bit there. But other than that, it's
Miami,
he's been all over the place. So
there you go. He was the quarterback coach for the Seahawks in the past. So that's pretty close.
Look, I think this is a slam dunk hire for Washington. I really do. Yeah. I'm wondering now where Arizona is going to come up. Please, God, somebody take Brian Hartline out of Ohio State so we can keep some damn wide receivers in the state of Florida, please.
Yeah, I would not mind seeing Hartline getting ousted from there. But speaking of, getting talent in, we're 13 deep. 12 scholarship guys. Devontae Brown's supposed to be a preferred walk-on. There's been a lot, there's 3 linebackers that are out of the portal from Alabama. So I'm curious if there's any of those guys. Sean Murphy is the most recent one. He's young. He doesn't have a bunch of stats, but he seems the most like what would fit what Randy Shannon wants to do. He's a little tall. He's a little heavy, but he is rangy and that coverage kind of guy that I think could play in the 4-2-5. I really like him, but that would be one, a longer play. I don't think he'd be somebody you'd sign and be a big star this year. But, are there any particular targets out there? And I just know everybody's going to ask about linebackers, so we could narrow it down. I know there's not a ton of action going on, but what can we do to calm the crowd out there about linebacker in the portal?
Well, I think you got to look at it this way. The staff has shown the ability to address virtually every position, via the portal, whether it's O-line, whether it's wide receiver, defensive back. They'll do the same thing with linebacker. It's for whatever reason, they brought some guys in, didn't really like them, and they went elsewhere, what have you. You got DJ Lundy coming back, which is big. I think that's bigger than a lot of people realize from just knowing the defense standpoint, a leadership standpoint. He's someone that's been through the fire from 5-7 through 13-0 last year. He can help these younger guys, Blake Nicholson, Justin Cryer, and all them. As far as learning the defense and things like that. I know they I think they like the Charlotte kid, but I think there's some things that, they got to work on there. And then you always have post-spring portal entries, and, they could probably find 1 or 2 guys at that point as well if it comes to it. So just be patient. Just as I told people on Christmas Eve when they were wilding out, we're not doing anything. Just be patient. Staff knows what they're doing. They'll get it done.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. I would love to get the Charlotte kid in if they can, if they can make that work. I think that's he's at least gives you some experience depth. But like Kelvin said, I mean, there's still a spring portal period. And a lot of that is where you find guys that may have found out, in a Florida State situation where you bring in 13 transfers and one of them push you out. Doesn't necessarily mean they're a bad player. It just means they may not be available yet. So there is that too. And then, like you said, I think getting DJ Lundy back, I mean, he was obviously a projected starter this year. Maybe he's not the most top end guy, but he's experienced in your defense. And so if you can get at least one guy who's experienced, who can kind of take the leadership role for that group, no matter who comes in, I mean, that's a huge positive to get him back in a sense, and if in nothing else. But I mean, you got to get somebody. I mean, at least maybe 1 or 2 guys in here really to match the rest of what you're bringing in, because you don't want a really glaring weakness. And, we saw last year where, again, these are really good college linebackers, maybe not NFL guys, or at least first 2-day picks, but you saw the difference in really good linebacker play for this defense and what it did. So I think they need to get some talent in here for sure, and hopefully they find somebody coming up.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I really like what Kelvin said, and that's what I'm going to hammer home. I'd love to have Nikai Hill-Green, love to get Sean Murphy in here. I'd love for the perfect linebacker to hit the portal as soon as the second thing opens up and come to Florida State or graduate transfer, whatever the case may be. But I would just patience. Like he said, Christmas a little bit before, everybody was freaking out. We only got 1 or 2 transfers. Where are they all at? And then bang, we get 10 over the course of a week. And here we are sitting number 3 in the transfer portal rankings. It was the same thing with high school recruiting back in June. Everybody ready to jump off a ledge. We're not getting anybody. Florida's number 3. This school's that. Then July came around. Bam, you land 10, 15 guys. Boom, you're up there, a top 5 class. You end up slipping a little bit. But there's also a couple targets in the high school ranks we can get. I kind of, talked about Amari Williams a little bit. There's a chance that we could get back in that thing and get him into this class, and that would possibly jump us a spot or 2. What do y'all start to hear on Amari Williams? And Jen, if you have anything?
There's been multiple crystal balls of Amari Williams to Florida State. I'm hearing nothing but good things. I actually have heard from some people that it could be imminent. That I don't know for sure. I can't confirm. But it looks pretty good. Things change obviously in recruiting, which is what I hate. I always say recruiting is almost like being a meteorologist. You get to miss on so much. And it's really just kind of a gut feeling, which is exactly like predicting the weather. Like they told us we were maybe going to get a tad bit like a dust of snow, and it's still pouring down snow. So you get to say, oh, well, I think he's going to go here, but there's a rumor he can go here, right? So it's kind of like you could get 5 inches or you could get nothing. Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for that. So again,
that's what she said.
Yeah.
Or that's what he said, I guess.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
That would be what he said. So I don't know. I'm hearing a lot that Amari Williams is kind of close to getting into the class. I guess we'll just see. Who knows?
Thoughts, fellas, or maybe anybody else they might could get into this class in that second signing day?
The only thing about Amari Williams, obviously would be a big pickup to add to your high school class, but didn't he reclassify from 25 to 24? So in a way, the only thing that worries me about that is how much you're going to get out of a true freshman who reclassified once already. Obviously, it doesn't mean it's impossible, but at that point, I would still like to go find an experienced player. But yeah, adding him to the high school class would be big for them. And from what it sounds like, it's pretty much Florida State in the lead, so hopefully they can land something pretty soon.
Well, I can tell you the chances of them signing another DN are probably slim to none from what I've heard as far as portal guys.
Right.
But we'll continue to keep an eye on it.
And plus, I will say, too, you could have
Zion.
Not another DN from what I've heard. Unfortunately, that situation, we heard Carlos's opinion on it, but not everybody's like Carlos. And I think that one's pretty much washed, unfortunately.
Yeah. And think about it, too. You could have, with the Arizona coaching change, someone's going to have to fill his role. So then if you have another coaching change there, someone's like the coaching, that's something we talked about before with some of these portal guys and whatnot, and why there may not have been some of the pieces in there. Man, there really wasn't a lot of coaching changes this year. You had Texas A&M and then Duke and Alabama and Washington so far. That's really mostly the ones I can think of. But if you start to get some of that ripple effect, one fills this one, that one fills that one, then that opens that portal window for some guys too. So there may be some guys that hit the market late that you could be watching for from some of these programs that have to fill a coaching search.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I agree with everyone as far as Amari. I think it's probably going to happen. I think I saw where you do the calculation. The class will jump from number 10 to number 7 just by adding him. But as Jesse said, he's reclassifying, so you don't expect to get much from him as a freshman. He'll need a year at least to come in and get stronger, bigger. Learn everything he needs to learn from a scheme standpoint. And that's kind of, that kind of goes back to, high school versus portal recruiting. You get guys that can come in and play, or guys that have to wait a year or two, but obviously it's a good get. You're talking about another Florida kid, another top in-state Florida kid. You always want to nail those Florida and Georgia players, and FSU's, they killed it this cycle. And that's what they need to do.
So just to let everybody know, right here at the Renegade Report, we do have memberships available. We do cash giveaways. We give away, card packs, memorabilia, stuff like that. We're going to do a big giveaway when we get to 2,000 subs here, hopefully for too long. But we also have, a ton of guests on. We're planning on doing some members only shows. Our first one probably this coming week or the following week. So if you can, it's $3.99, I think, is the cheapest membership. So we'd really appreciate it if you can afford it to jump on that. If not, just hit that like and subscribe. We really appreciate you guys. Kelvin Hunt, again, is Built for Playmakers podcast right here on YouTube. I'm not sure if you have memberships or not. I know he's up over 2,000 subs. So make sure you get over there and subscribe to him. Do you have memberships for him too?
Yeah, you could do that as well with us. Check us out, man. Love to have you.
Absolutely. And the same for Jesse Coger. He's at plantthespear.com and at plantthespear on YouTube. And they're at 980 something the last I checked?
We passed it.
Let's go.
Right. We broke it. So yeah,
Good.
man, that's awesome. Appreciate that. Yeah, we're at 1,007 now. So just excited to see that extra digit pop up.
Hell yeah. Glad to hear it, man. So before long, you'll see the memberships in the store start to pop up over there. So y'all make sure y'all go over to Plant the Spear and take care of him. And also, Jen Santee is at Jen Santee 1890 on X, and I think she's working on something like 5,000 Twitter followers. I finally just hit 3,000, so I thought that was pretty cool. But guys, we usually open the phone lines up at about 2 hours. We're almost there. Anything on y'all's mind? Any kind of stuff y'all were wanting to talk about when y'all found out you were coming on?
So I got one that maybe we can bounce back and forth a little bit. That might be kind of a fun topic. I know it's about a rival here, but Miami, they do land Cam Ward. Obviously, look, I'm not.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I'm not going to be like every rival fan here and just crap on every player that everybody gets. Like that's a good pickup for them. He was good for them. They needed him probably more than he needed them for sure. But at the same time, it's year 3, man. And as much stuff as they talked about Mike Norvell, your year 3, you did not come in a COVID year. You did not take over quite the situation that Mike Norvell took over. You got your quarterback now. This is the one they wanted. This is the one they probably spent a lot to get. I think, man, I really do think Mario Cristobal it's kind of put up or shut up time this year. I think you need to come out and win at a minimum. I mean, just looking at their schedule, it's not the most difficult schedule. You got at Florida A&M, Ball State, at USF, at Cal, at Georgia Tech, Louisville on the road, Duke, Florida State, Virginia Tech, Wake, and then at Syracuse. I think it's pretty much time for him to win 10 games and compete for an ACC championship, or it's going to be a little bit of egg on his face there, especially with what they've talked about Norvell.
Yeah, no doubt, man. They had to have him. I mean, I'm pretty sure they probably threw the bank at him for sure. But yeah, as Jesse mentioned, you're talking about, another soft schedule, which is typical Miami. I know this, if they don't beat FSU this year, which I still don't think they will, even if he wins 8, 9, 10 games, it's going to be, at some point, you got to beat your rivals. And beating Florida with what they have is not really going to mean too much if they're able to do that. So even if they do win a lot of games and they don't beat FSU, I don't think there's going to be too much he can sell on a trail at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm going to go last because I got to stand on business here. But Jen, thoughts?
My thoughts. Yeah, it's fine if they get Cam Ward. I'm totally fine with it. I think he's a great player. I'm not taking anything from him. I think he's too good for Miami. But I think 17 fumbles, and if he thinks that's going to be fixed with Mario, I don't know what to say. If your draft grade wasn't what you thought it was, so you decided to go back to college and you decided to go back and play for Mario to get a better draft grade, I also don't know what to tell you. I don't know who's giving your advice, but great. Good news for me. Should be interesting. Again, 17 fumbles last year. Ball security is clearly not Mario's thing. So I don't know what Cam Ward really thinks he's going to do for his career going back to Miami. I heard in his interview talking about ACC championships, and I said, ships? They never won one. let alone ships.
I
What are
saw
you
a quote
talking about?
saying he said he was going to beat Florida and Florida State this year. Was that true?
Napier. That was Napier.
Oh,
that was
okay, that was Napier. Well,
Mhm.
sorry to put one on you there,
Yeah,
Mr.
that was
Cuban
Napier.
Willie Taggart.
In
But
fairness,
alrighty.
I was Camp DJ anyway, so
Me too.
Yeah,
Me too.
Jen was Camp DJ the whole time, and so that's why I was going to go last. Look, I thought I was kind of Cam Ward from the beginning. I thought, we gave the same opinion on here a lot. Me and Jen kind of debated the pros and cons of each one. I thought from go one, Cam Ward, if put in a Ferrari, if handed just an absolute Ferrari, like a 2013 FSU, I think he could provide a higher ceiling maybe than a DJU. That was my opinion on it. But with his turnover issues and stuff, if he goes somewhere like a Miami, that isn't going to put him in the best situation to win. If he's going to be back there 4 and 5 seconds, it could be an absolute nightmare. I always thought that DJ had way higher of a floor and could do more to come in and manage a situation. I think you could flip the quarterbacks and Florida State would still be successful and Miami would have a much better chance of being successful with a DJU, but a DJU would never go to Miami. It doesn't make sense. You're trying to upgrade your draft stock, like y'all said. Cam Ward choosing to go to Miami for the 1 year to try and improve the grade that he didn't like. It's kind of like, going to a one-legged man to teach you how to hopscotch. It doesn't wipe him before you poop, whatever you want to say. It's like a termite in a wooden yo-yo. It's fucked up. So I hate it for him. I don't know who gave him the advice to do that. I'm a fan of the player. We'll see what happens. That Florida Miami game will be a fun one to watch. Me and Jen talked about it with Chris and James the other day. What do y'all think about that one? We all kind of picked Florida, but that was before Cam Ward committed. I think Jen probably stayed where she was at. I think it's going to be a pick 'em, just which one's the worst nightmare at this point. But I'm curious what y'all two think.
Well, I'll first say, talking about the difference in the two, the reason I was Camp DJ was just the sacks and turnovers. And I understand a lot of that was him trying to make plays. He was in the pocket a lot longer. I mean, he threw 2 or 3 times as many passes as DJ. So he had a lot more dropbacks. But the thing is, man, I think Florida State, Miami kind of needs that wild card at quarterback. They need that guy that either can be that can put him over the top, or the ship's going to sink anyway. I think Florida State has enough talent and quality coaching around DJ that they don't need that wild card. They need that guy that's kind of okay, let's just have that high floor like you talked about. They don't necessarily need a Heisman level ceiling. They just need a really good college level quarterback type of floor to not lose with the pieces that they have around them. But as far as that game next year, man, if it was a neutral site, I think I would easily probably take Miami in that one with Cam Ward. Being in the swamp, I know that Mertz is not some world beater quarterback, but he's back again next year. He's not terrible for doing what they ask him to do. ETN was obviously a huge loss for them. Maybe Florida in the swamp, but I think Miami's probably the better team, but I think Florida has a little bit better coaching and they get the home advantage. So can they both?
It's going to be at night.
We're keeping track of these now. I'm riding the fence right now. I'm at a pick 'em. We've got Chris for UF, Jen for UF. I'm kind of riding a pick 'em, and now we've got Jesse. Are you on? You're on Miami. So we got you committing.
Man, can they both lose?
Is that all possible?
That's my pick.
That would be ideal if they could both lose. Man, I'd have to see what Florida got on defense, but unless they fix that defense, then maybe Miami. If Cristobal doesn't find a way to screw it up, I think Miami's the better team. It's just the venue, but Florida State walked in there with a backup last year and beat them in the swamp. So to me, man, if you had to go between Cam and Graham, I'd take Cam.
I think any game Mario is supposed to win or should win, he loses. That's
a really good point.
Yeah, I said that this is what you said. Florida's defense. Now they got Cam Ward, and that's what Jen came back. She was like, "But don't you think he's going to find a way to lose it?" And I was like, "Yeah, well, you make a good point, especially one position games."
Right, as long as you don't have to take a knee at the end, they might be safe. But if they do, they're in trouble.
What do you think, Mr. Hunt, man? You got a prediction?
Yeah, man. I'm like Jesse. Can they both lose? I don't know. I think both teams will. Let me turn it off. I don't know what. Both teams can change, especially Florida could change a bit. with the portal, and who knows? Didn't they just bring in some defensive guy to help their tool shed guy at DC supposedly?
Yeah,
which is kind of
old DC, I think.
Yeah, which is kind of telling. I don't know. Miami should win that game, I suppose. So I guess I'll say Miami. But I want to go back to Ward real quick. I like Ward as a player. I broke him down on the channel, all of his strengths and weaknesses. This is something that was kind of telling to me. Washington won. They went 7-6 in 2022. They went 5-7 last year. So he's not a guy that's so great that's going to cause the team to rise up. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Not only that, he's a one-read guy. He read the left field like 90% of the time first. If that was taken away, he usually scrambled into a sack. He was sacked over 40 times last year. So if you have a great secondary or pass rush, it's going to be a problem for him. And so when I look at it and you say, okay, well, obviously you would trust Norvell. They would put him in a better situation than what Mario and those guys will do. So them getting him is great for them, but it doesn't scare me as it would if he were going to somewhere with really good coaching. So I'll just leave it.
Yeah.
Agreed. And we hit 300 in the chat. So, I know y'all seen the comment. Jen made it rain with memberships. She gave out 5 memberships. So that's on y'all if y'all want to pick them up, but y'all will be eligible for all the money, and it's done randomly. So y'all be eligible. Can't talk here. Y'all will be eligible for all the handouts, all the cash prizes, and the members only shows, all that good stuff with that. But feel free to upgrade it or anything like that. We really appreciate you. And thanks again, Jen. I'm going to go ahead and throw the bat line up here on the screen so you guys can get your questions in for anybody up here or all of us, or if you want to get a take, challenge one of our takes, whatever the case may be, feel free to call or text in your questions and we will get after it. I guess the Cowboys are getting their ass whooped by the Packers right now.
Are they?
Oh, yeah, 27-0. Looks like, man, the Texans put it on. To Cleveland last night too. That was
man. What a story.
2 pick six in a row by Flacco. Like that's painful.
Yeah, that's tough. But CJ Stroud, I mean, it's like I guess since
isn't this amazing?
Pittsburgh
that
quarterback,
Cowboys...
I'm drawing a blank. Roethlisberger. I guess he's the last one to possibly go to the Super Bowl as a freshman, or not a freshman, but a rookie. Didn't he do it?
He's pretty good, man. They're having a really good year. So, I mean, I don't really have a dog in the fight, but I definitely like what he's doing there. So,
this is the crazy thing: the Cowboys were 7.5 point favorites.
I love every minute.
Parlay buster,
right?
Yikes!
Can I just say, like, I was talking to a relative's, I guess, date partner that they go with, right? A date partner. And he's like, oh, the Cowboys will win tomorrow. And I said, in a playoff game? Are you sure? Because, that would be like saying Miami wins, like, championships. They're both, and he was like, well, I mean, they were good. And I was like, they haven't won since the 90s, which is basically like what Miami's done. I know it was 2001, but, like, seriously? Are you kidding? These are the two same teams. They're the two same. One's in the NFL, one's in college, and their fans yap so much on the off season. They lose everything. They never do anything relevant. Haven't done it in years. And then look at this. Look what we're looking at. 27-0.
It's hilarious. I haven't got to watch the NFL at all this year, but we got our first caller. You're live on the Renegade Rundown. What do you got for us, bud?
Hey, my name's Vaughn. Sorry about earlier.
No, you're good, man. Water under the bridge. I just misunderstood it.
I just can't wait for this year because DJ is going to ball out. Mario's going to be like before. He's going to end up finding a way to screw everything up unless he learns how to kneel. But other than that, I love the show. Guys, have a good one.
Absolutely, man. You didn't have a question. Just wanted to give a shout out. All right.
Yep, just a shout out.
Appreciate it, man. Have a good one.
You too.
Appreciate you.
I will echo what he's saying, though, man. Like, after this last, I mean, I was still excited anyway, regardless. But man, after this last few weeks in the portal, man, I'm super pumped for 2024. I mean,
me too.
I already expected Florida State to really be at a different floor as far as just win-loss record. Like, I think the days of the losing seasons, all that stuff, all that's gone. But man, with what he did in the portal these last few weeks, I'm like, dude, we're gonna be freaking good again. Like this.
I'm glad you brought that
year.
up because I want to know. I really want to know what y'all think. I was just like the casuals out there, the naysayers, the haters were all saying, "Oh, well, y'all are gonna have a big drop off. It's national championship or bust in 2023." As soon as we started winning something, it's like I got all these seniors and all these portal guys, and it's unsustainable. And look, I was telling them, telling those guys, "Fuck off, y'all are crazy, this and that." This thing's headed one direction. Like you said, the losing years are over, all those 5 and 7 seasons and stuff. But I still, in my heart of hearts, thought, yeah, you lose a Jordan Travis, you lose a Jared Verse. Like, there's going to be a bit of a drop off. You're going to have a bit of a different kind of team. But yeah, what we've done in the past week, you take a step back and look at it and possibly adding more high school guys. And another aspect that I think that a lot of people don't talk about when you're so locked into one program and what your program's doing. Like I just said, Florida State's getting better year in, year out. We just dropped another 20 off the bottom, add another 13 on the top out of the transfer portal on top of another 24 high school kids, 16 blue chips. Like we're on that ascension, but also around the country, over half the teams in the country get worse from year to year. So it's like we're steadily moving up every year, but the teams around us aren't. They're either staying even or dropping a little bit. But yeah, I am really curious. That's my question for everybody. Does Florida State enter that top echelon of college football where people give up and start talking about us like an Ohio State or a Bama, or a Michigan or these teams in 2024?
Do they talk about us like that? I don't.
I mean, we all know,
they won't
the team
talk
we're capable of
like
being,
that.
But
they won't talk about us like that. They might be mad when they finally do have to admit that they're wrong about it. So I do think Florida State will be at that level. I just think that, they're not going to want to give credit where credit's due. But I think you make a good point, man. At the end of every year, you know what you're going to lose. But I think what you say about the next team is TBD until you see what happens in the portal. Because, again, man, this is why I think the portal's exciting, because you can really change the expectations of a team for the next year overnight. In a weekend, you can completely change it. And when I do a lot of the research for the upcoming season, the first thing I do is like, okay, I know what Florida State's got. Let me go look at what everybody else has. And then you start seeing a lot of these teams where, they're new quarterbacks or they're losing a lot of these pieces and Florida State's just snapping them up, man. It's like, yeah, I think that you'll have some every year getting guys up to speed because you're going to be plugging in new pieces. But with the portal and, thank goodness we got one of the most successful coaches in the portal, plus the high school talent getting better. I mean, I don't think Florida State's going to miss a step. Will they go undefeated? I don't know. That's hard. It's hard to do every year, no matter what. I mean, Florida's been playing football, 120 years and never done it. But do I think they are probably one of the favorites to make the ACC championship next year and put themselves in that 12-team playoff picture? Yeah, sure. I think that's the case. I mean, honestly, maybe hot take. I think Florida State and Virginia Tech will probably play. They played in the first ACC championship, and they might play in the last ACC championship that Florida State ever plays in if they make it out this year, because that's another team that has gotten better. But yeah, man, I think Florida State's not going to miss a step going forward.
I love it. So let me clarify first. Thank you to Amelia Islanol for gifting 5 memberships right here for the Renegade Report. So we really appreciate that, Amelia. But for Kelvin and Jen, let me clarify a little bit. So, going into this year in the LSU game or the Clemson game, the talk is okay, Florida State has the veteran offensive line. They've got the crafty senior quarterback. Going into 2024, do you think it's going to be more we can line up head up and that floor is raised to a level to where you're that team that you have to have the crafty quarterback to beat, et cetera, et cetera? It just feels like this is the year that Mike Norvell just doesn't have to do more with less basically anywhere except for, and why everybody's harping on it, linebacker. We're not going to get back into that. But it really looks like we'll get that respect this year when you talk about breakdown teams. We'll be that guy.
Yeah, when you think about it, man, I mentioned this on a recent show I had. When you go back to before the 2022 season, right? Obviously, they won 10 games that season. But when we went into that first LSU game, we had a lot of unproven guys. And obviously, Jared Verse had just come from Albany. We had Derek McClendon was the most experienced defensive end. Patrick Payton was
600 snaps. Sorry.
Yeah, Patrick Payton was a redshirt freshman, right? You had Fabian Lovett. You had Robert Cooper at defensive tackle. Behind those two, you really didn't have a whole lot. In the secondary, you had Renardo Green, he had been hurt his whole time, hadn't really proven much. You had Jerry Jones, hadn't proven much. Akeem Dent had been hurt the whole time. The only person really that was proven was Jamie Robinson, right? Now, when you look at this season, if you look at defensive end, you got Peyton, you have Byron Turner, who has experience, and then you have these guys from the portal who come in, Durajai, who has incredible upside and 3 years remaining, but then you have the guy from Oregon State who is a plug-and-play guy. So you have way more depth. You have way more depth there. At defensive tackle, you have, if they stay, Farmer, Jackson, Grady Kelly, Lyons, Sampson. That's way more depth than you had in 2022. Secondary is younger but more talented. So when you look at the team as a whole, you have way more depth across the board than you did in 2022 when you won 10 games. And when you look at the schedule, is Clemson better this year coming up than it will be in 2022? They lost a lot of talent over the last couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Aside from Notre Dame, and Notre Dame had some losses last year, FSU's they're in a prime spot to be good this year, but not only this year, in the coming years. Because when DJ leaves after this year, you got two monsters waiting at quarterback. You have a young receivers coach.
Another good subject.
You have a young receiver group who in 25, oh man, this guy's gonna have 2 or 3 years under the belt. So Norvell has set up this thing to be successful not only this year, but 25, 26, so forth and so on. So I think we're going to be a problem for everybody.
Yeah, I think too, one thing what Kelvin said is look at what Clemson did on the road last year. I mean, you get them in Doak this year. They were terrible on the road. They lost to Miami, for goodness sakes. But no one can really beat them at home. I mean, they beat Notre Dame. They beat a ranked UNC who fell off a cliff. But, you were able to beat them in Death Valley last year. Now you get them at home, and they haven't been good on the road at all. And unless they get Klubnik figured out, I mean, that's really kind of the linchpin of their offense is, man, I mean, that guy has 2-3 turnovers a game. So until they get that figured out, Clemson's offense is going to continue to struggle. And like you said, I mean, they're losing a lot of talent. And
zero luck in the portal.
And last I checked, Dabo still has not taken anybody. So, it's kind of what you see is what you get with those guys.
Well, this super here is going to cover you guys up. So I'm going to read it real quick and then get it off the screen. But thank you so much, John, for the $9.99 super chat, and the kind of question here, or just asking us here to help you out. Make us feel better about Cam and Miami, please. To be honest, weeks ago, when their quarterback options were vanishing and Ward didn't sign with an agent, I knew this last second bait and switch was coming. Still sucks. Yeah, the famous Timothy Johnson on X finally gets one to come back for him. And he gets one right after catching the guy getting arrested. But no, look, I'll go first on this one. I'm not going to sit here and trash Cam Ward. That's not what we're going to do. But what we said earlier, if you missed it when we talked about him, look, the guy has 37 fumbles, I believe, the last couple of years, something like 40-something, turnovers. It's been a really tough, I think 17 interceptions and then 30-something fumbles. It's been a really rough go of it for him behind some less than stellar offensive lines, not the best teams out there at Washington State. But like Kelvin said, that thing was on a trajectory going the wrong way. They've won less games this year than last year. What is Miami going to do with him? I mean, I just don't see it being like the harbinger to bring Miami to that next level. They might win a game or two more, but I just wouldn't sweat it. And it just goes to show what they're about, their character, how they run this program. Because I think they did a similar thing with a quarterback last year. Look what they did to Ja'Cory Brown. Look what they did to Reese Poffenberger. You think that's got to be good? We had a whole lot of fun on here talking about, getting your something Poffenberger or whatever on that show. You'll have to go back when that happened. We had a whole lot of fun on that segment. But at the end of the day, that's a kid who, they probably pumped up to say he was going to compete for the starting position, and, a couple weeks later, bam, he's out of there and it's Cam Ward. But what will you tell the people that are worried about Cam Ward?
Well, I'll say this. So when you look at what Cristobal did at Oregon, I mean, they inherited a first-round NFL draft pick with Justin Herbert. And I think he still had, if I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but he still had a losing record against ranked teams, even with Justin Herbert in a weak Pac-12. On top of that, they had the conference as a whole had a losing record. So, he's already had a lot of talent and shown that he really didn't do a whole lot with it. He's still the head coach. He still likes to run the ball. Is he going to force them to run the ball a lot? Colby Young just transferred out. And so that's a big receiver there. So, you got a quarterback, but
Colby George just got in trouble. I don't know how much that's if he's going to be suspended or anything, but there was you got
Restrepo, but he doesn't really scare too many people. And so, I just think that I still think he is obviously a big boost for them. I got to be honest. The guy's a good player regardless, but like Kelvin said, he was a good player and they still went 5-7 at Washington State in the Pac-12. So, there's still a lot. It's all in how you get used more than who you get. So I don't think if he had maybe landed at Clemson or something, maybe then you're a little worried. But the fact that he's at Miami, it's just I don't know, man. I know there's a Miami fan in here, but hey guys,
appreciate it, man. We're glad we can make you laugh. We appreciate you guys enjoying the show and keep those engagements coming, brother. We sure appreciate it.
I look at it like this with Miami, man. Miami is always, to me, going to be until I see it. They've had so many talented players, so many talented rosters over the years. Until I see them actually win something, I'm not going to buy into it. The one time, and this is after 20 years of playing in the Coastal, for goodness sakes. The one time they made the ACC championship, they got beat by 5 touchdowns by Clemson. So again, until I see it, I'm not sold on Miami. You got to see the proof in the pudding, and they don't have. Still waiting.
I'll put it this way. Ward averaged 40.
Yeah. I really don't have a question. Just something to some of our FSU fans to think about this Cam Ward situation. This is the way I'm looking at it. You're looking at a coaching staff with Mario Cristobal that inherited Tyler Van Dyke, which was a first-round draft pick, probably a top 10 draft pick, and by the time he left Miami, he's undraftable. That's all I got to say, FSU fans. Have a good weekend, and I'm out.
Appreciate it, man. And sorry about that, Kelvin. I got the feedback, so I thought that was his voice coming through the phone, and then he started talking about. Sorry to cut you off there.
Oh, no. Hey, he made a great point, so shout out to my dude.
I 100% agree.
Yeah, I was gonna say Ward averaged 40 pass attempts a game last year. Do you think Mario's gonna throw the ball 40 times in a game?
Mm-mm.
No.
Nope.
TVD averaged around 30-ish. So Mario's gonna run the ball. He wants to run the ball. We saw that they couldn't run the ball against good defenses last year. So if he can't run the ball, how good is he really gonna be when you don't have top elite guys to throw to? We'll be fine.
Yeah, Jen gave him the nickname quarterback killer for a reason. It isn't like
I didn't give him that. That's well known.
Oh, are you the one that gave him the man's ear thing?
The move.
Anyways, we got another caller. You're live with the Renegade Rundown. You got a question for us?
Yeah. What does Mario think he's going to get by going after this quarterback? And I don't think he's going to improve it.
Say that again. What does who think they're going to go out get after going what quarterback?
What Mario thinks he's achieved.
Oh yeah. Well, we appreciate it, and that is a good point. He got a quarterback, but he's got to be able to show that he can do something with him. So it doesn't.
I think too, man. You got to keep in mind with Miami just what they were starting with. They really didn't have anything.
Nothing.
So right, they had just basically the Albany guy that had any record of production, any college experience, and so I think for them it was a good get. Whether you think Cam Ward is the answer or not, they had to have something, or else. Really, you're talking about walking into the season probably. Goodness gracious, 500 and 6-6, 7-5, or something like that.
If you're a Miami fan, this was huge for you. Make no mistake about it. We're not taking that away from them. Yeah, we're still going to laugh at them.
I'll take it away from him. I don't give a shit.
They had to have him, bro. If they didn't get him, it was going to be ugly.
Yeah.
Those Cubans, they were praying to Mother Mary in church. I'm telling you this right now. praying for Cam Ward. That's the only option they had. So again, it's great. I love you guys. It's amazing. Good luck to you. I'm with Jesse. I need to see it. Y'all need to stop talking. Stop running all this crap that you do with your offseason championships, best coach in the state, best quarterback in the state.
21 years running. By God.
21 years and all these best teams in the state, and you come away with 0. A big fat 0. You've won nothing. You've done nothing. Nothing. I actually had a Miami fan be like, well, what happened when we won 4 in a row? And I was like, dude, did you just go back to 2004? Did you just go? Is that what we're doing now, sir? Is that what?
Your tradition went away when Best Buy went out of business. I'm sorry.
Or
not Best Buy, Blockbuster. Your tradition went away when Blockbuster went out of business because all your
that
VHS
damn Keon Coleman, that Keon Coleman highlight tape. I thought it was fixing to be a Miami championship. I didn't know what it was when I saw that VHS load up.
Exactly. Be kind, rewind should be their team slogan.
Look, I would go as far as to say Circuit City as well. Circuit City used to be a booming business. I don't know if anybody remembers that. But that is the last time Miami was relevant. Moms could go to Showbiz Pizza and drink beer at the bar. The last time Miami has won a damn thing.
What's funny is I love the memes where they replace the rings with like the year of cars that when they won the ring, and it's like a bunch of 80s Honda Civics or whatever. And it's just like, it just puts it into perspective how long it's been.
It's like the original Law and Orders. When you go watch those from like 1991 and you see those cars and you're like, oh, look, Miami Hurricanes are relevant then.
And again,
isn't that cool?
That's 20 years of being in the Coastal. Had you swapped Florida State and Miami and the Coastal and the Atlantic where they had to sit behind NC State and Clemson and all those years. I mean, imagine how many times Florida State would have made the ACC championship where they got locked out with Clemson. I mean, it's, you really look, the ACC Wheel of Destiny was a thing. I mean, no one wanted to win the Coastal, and you played in the worst division and still couldn't win but once. I mean, again, until I see it, I'm not buying Miami.
Not only that, they played in the Coastal, and then they still played FIU, Bethune-Cookman, Tulane, and all these little, non-Power 5 schools, and still couldn't win like 10 games. What, they win 10 games like once in the last since forever?
Yeah,
I mean, and when you think about it, there was no gradual drop off. It was like they won their last little ship, and it was like, and they've been trash ever since.
Yep.
Yeah. So William, we're gonna circle back to the tight end from Alabama, Nye Black. We're gonna get this caller off real quick. You got a question for us? You're live on the Renegade Rundown.
How you doing? Tiny Hat Gang, we are in here. Shout out to all of my Florida State fans. Jen, how you doing? Squad, how you guys doing up there?
What's up, Tiny Hat, man? Thanks for calling in.
Oh, listen, always. Listen, I'm upset with our Florida State fan base here because I cannot believe we are out here worrying about what the second best team in the state of Florida that wears orange and green is doing. Don't nobody care what Miami, the Hurricanes, got going on. We should stop calling them the doggone Miami Hurricanes. They are not in Miami. They are in Coral Gables. They are the University of Coral Gables Hurricanes, and they are the third best team wearing orange and green in the state. That's behind FAMU and Blanche Ely High School in Pompano Beach, Florida. Don't nobody want to hear nothing out of what Miami got going. They got coaching problems. They got Taquito Taggart out here trying to make big waves. Don't nobody care what he got going on. We talking about the royalty of the Florida State Seminole program. Big Three champs, back-to-back years, dominating the game in the portal. We got our coach out here trying to get poached by the best program in college football over the last 2 decades. They told us he was mid-Mike for damn near 3 years. And now we got our coach trying to be poached by a team that's been on top of college football for the last 2 decades. Miami ain't got anybody trying to poach from down there. They ain't got none of that. Hell, they fans was in the chat telling all their players to go play for Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. And Ole Miss is probably a better program than Miami over this last 20 years. So I don't want to hear nothing out of what they got going on. We are dominating the game out here, and anybody who got something to say about it, they can go kick rocks because we play the games on the field. And when the games get played, Florida State comes out on top. It ain't going to change this year either, baby. It is not going to change this year either. I only see 2 games on our schedule we're talking about, and that's Notre Dame and potentially Dabo and them boys. But outside of that, who going to stop us? Who going to stop us? I don't want to hear them.
Facts,
I wanted
man.
to just jump on here and let y'all know that I'm watching. The Tiny Hat CEO is watching this out here. And tell all of our Florida State fans, don't even pay attention to them plebeians down there because they don't even have their own stadium. They're not even in the city that they representing, and ain't nothing good coming out of that trash squad down there. That's exactly what I want to say. Go Noles, baby.
Love it, man. Look, when you're right, you're right. You know what I mean? When you're right, you're right. We appreciate you for calling in, and we'll have to hear back from you next time for sure. I don't know if you can hear Jen, but she's definitely loving it, and we appreciate you for joining us, brother.
Hey, straight facts, man. And you know what? Miami's got FAMU on the schedule this year, so you know they've got some FSU transfers that'll be fired up for that game. Like, hey, don't mess around and end up losing to the other team from Tallahassee this year because hey, FAMU's legit.
Hey, I love it, and I'm gonna take in his advice first. John throws the $9.99 super chat way too early. Who wins the Miami or Gators week 1? Man, you got to rewind a little bit. We had a pretty good conversation about this. So you just got to find it in the stream, but we're kind of split on it. So you just have to check that out. We're kind of split, Florida, It's one of those things like Tiny Hat was just saying, who gives a shit about those guys? It's nasty. We like to have fun. We like to talk about them. We like to rub it in. We like to troll a little bit. But William, something other else. One of our guys in the chat had a question earlier that I just never got to, and he was asking about the tight end Black from Alabama. And I'm just going to be honest, I don't have anything on that. I haven't even really talked to any of my people to find out if Florida State's after him yet or not. Of course, the scholarship crunch is real right now, so that's a natural thing we'll probably end up talking to after this. But does anybody on the panel have anything on Black? Do y'all like him? Think they're going to reach out, etc.?
I don't see it. But I could be absolutely 100% wrong only because it happened and it started snowing here. I haven't been able to, really delve into it. So maybe somebody else has better information than I do.
I can't say a whole lot about it, but I will say that I like Landon Thomas as well. If you have to step up and play him as a freshman,
Yep.
I think if you're in a scholarship crunch, I think that's an option certainly to turn to. And then, of course, you have Morlock coming back this year who, again, he was transitioning from a D2 school. So now hopefully with another year, he'll be, ready, a little bit more ready as well. And then the one thing I will say, the NCAA decided they weren't going to do the Irrelevant Bowl, the two worst teams in college football. And I'm like, you don't have to, man. It's already going to be played next year in Gainesville when you get Miami and Florida. So that problem solved itself.
Facts.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll pursue him or not. He looked productive this past year. I think he had 20 receptions for like 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. But you do have Morlock. You do have Landon Thomas as a freshman. You still have Jarrell Powers on the roster who should be physically ready to play and do something this year. I wouldn't mind if they could add another experienced tight end. But if they don't, it's one of those deals where you trust the coaches. They know way more than we do, guys.
Be more of a luxury if we could get them on there. We've got another $10 super chat from Mike Bartz. Jalen Milroe is in the transfer portal. I heard he was flirting with it, and he acted like he was going to stay. I guess while we've been live, I guess that's some breaking news. He's entering the portal. I don't have confirmation on that. I don't know if anybody else does, but he says, just saw something about it. I sent you a screenshot. Love the show. You are all my peeps, along with Spear Addicts and Big Game James. Go Noles, man. Mike, we appreciate you. You've been here from the jump supporting the Renegade Report. So absolutely, man. Thanks for the super chat, and thanks for always supporting for sure. Jalen Milroe. It's getting pretty rough. It's going to be a new look Bama team in 2024. No doubt about that.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of mixed things. I've seen some that says he did enter. I clicked on one that said that they'll be looking, and it looks like the article doesn't exist. So I can't really confirm or deny that. But I will say one thing about that whole Alabama situation is everybody, I joked on our page where I thought it would be funny, if nothing else, to watch them go through a couple 8-4 seasons just to kind of humble that fan base a little bit. And everyone's like, they're not going to miss a step with the talent they got. And I'm like, yeah, man, but it's a portal era. Like, first off, Miami can show you that you can waste talent. They have had, them and Florida have had an above 50% blue chip ratio for the last 2 years, and they've done nothing with it. So just because you have talent doesn't mean you can win games. But at the same time, with the portal, that talent's already leaking. So there's no guarantee that Alabama's just going to not miss a step because, no one can replace that. What Saban did, he was the magic to that, not Alabama the magic to Saban. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes going forward. I think DeBoer's a good coach. But I mean, man, maintaining what Nick Saban did, that's almost impossible.
So just to clarify, I guess he's a redshirt sophomore. I'm not sure if these sites have flipped it over. So he's on the line. He could possibly be a graduate transfer, but I'm going to lean Milroe probably is going to have to wait till the spring period. And we have another caller here live on the Renegade Rundown. You got a question for us?
Yes, sir. This is Trey from Tampa.
What's up,
Super
Trey?
diehard Florida State fan. Big fan of all y'all shows. Just have a question on this Cam Ward ordeal. Never wish a kid's downfall, but do you think that his draft stock will fall now that he chose Miami?
Absolutely, man. We
100%.
appreciate that question. We'll get right into it. Go ahead, Jen.
I said 100%. 100%.
It probably
It's
wasn't
not-
real high to begin with, but it's not going up by going to Miami.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. If it was high, he wouldn't be playing college football.
Exactly.
And yeah, I mean, you're looking at it again, and like I said earlier, you know, he averaged 40 pass attempts a game last year. He's not going to do that this year. And so, yeah, guys just go there to die with Mario Cristobal. So I don't think that's going to happen.
I think this has to be, I mean, I don't want to speculate, but it has to be NIL play. I mean, if you get a bad draft grade, you go somewhere that isn't going to up your draft stock. Like you said, Kelvin, I think they had to back the brain struck up for him. And I mean, it would make sense if he got that grade, that why not cash in on NIL from a team that's desperate? It only makes sense in his part. So
I think that's exactly what happened. Because think about it. He said he's declaring for the draft, you know, and it's like Miami was like, man, we missed out on him. Then they got Poffenbarger, whatever his name was, and you know, then they saw Jacurri in the bowl, and it's like, man, are we really going to do this? Are we really going to go into the season without a guy? Right. And I think they were like, hey, bro, we just can't do it. We got to just throw whatever we can at him. And they was like, well, if you're going to throw that at me, okay, I'll come play for you.
Yeah. Yeah. What didn't they say it was like 2 million, I think, originally was the original number or something like that. So I know it was a lot, but yeah, I mean, you're right. Why not? For both sides, really, because Mario, I mean, if you got to pay for that, I mean, think about the repercussions like we talked about of another 5-7 season. You're getting stale down there quick.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I'm feeling a little strange about this. I know that, like everybody said, you know, Cam Ward was being recruited by Florida State as well. They got the inkling that he wanted to go to the NFL, right? My thing is I think he always wanted Ohio State as his college destination. I'm sorry, that's all I ever heard about him. Ohio State never gave him that offer, and yet they went with Will Howard.
Oh, yeah.
Which is telling.
Mm-hmm.
Something seems weird to me. This kid, then he decides to declare for the draft. He doesn't sign with an agent. And Ohio State then, at that moment, started pursuing Will Howard, even though I know Miami fans said he was silent for 2 weeks to keep the portal closed and to screw them over because they only almost got Jeremiah Smith. I get it, guys. I get it. I get your conspiracy theories. I'm with you. But it seems very strange to me that the number one quarterback in the portal had only really one place. Honestly, and George, you can attest to this. I said this from the get-go. That kid wanted to go to Ohio State. That's all I've ever heard about him. And then it came down to the fact that it was Florida State versus Miami. And I'm not saying he wanted to come to Florida State either.
Well,
I don't think. What? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say, I think you're right. And I think, you know, whatever the case may be, the coach and staff felt that. I truly believe, you know, what DJU's dad said, Big Dave, when he came on here. And if you haven't watched that, go back and watch that interview. I think it really came down to Florida State making a choice. It was those two guys were looking at the NFL or Florida State. That was kind of the top thing. And then when Florida State picked DJU, that's when all of a sudden it was, you know, between Cam and the NFL and Miami. Well, he picked the NFL. He literally picked the NFL. So, you know, when we say Miami was desperate or whatever, like, look, Cam Ward's a good player. Like, yeah, go for him. If you're Cam Ward, like, I mean, if you're Miami, obviously you're desperate. Florida State was desperate when they were 3-6 and 5-7. We needed that next year. We were desperate. We needed Jordan Travis to be that dude. So it's not, I mean, you know, I see it in the comment sections and stuff, but, you know, we'll see.
we took a gamble on Mackenzie Milton because we were desperate at the
Yeah.
time. You needed a spark,
Yeah.
and it's the same. Like when you say Miami's desperate, that's assuming they did not get Cam Ward. Prior to getting Cam Ward, yes, they were desperate. They needed to win games right now. 5-7, 7-6, losing to Rutgers is not going to keep landing you really good classes after so long. I mean, it's what everybody said with FSU. Like if they don't start getting some results on the field, you're going to suffer. And Miami, we know Cristobal's a good recruiter, but at some point you got to win games. And so if they didn't get a quarterback in this year and they go, another 6-6, 7-6 season, something like that, I mean, people are going to they're going to lose that used car salesman pitch or whatever. And they had to have somebody or else it was going to get sketchy down there. I mean, a lot of us believe Napier's probably going to get fired next year if they don't do something significant. Probably not. I don't think Miami is in the same position because they put so much into getting Cristobal. But man, I mean, you got to start winning some games or it's going to get stale quick. I mean, they've already fired the dream staff, or whatever they said, and had to start over. So
yeah. I wonder.
They'll fire Dawson next year too. They will. They'll fire Dawson when they win 7 games. They absolutely will. They won't throw Mario under the bus for whatever reason they don't want to do it. We all have eyeballs. We know who's losing these games. We know who's calling the plays. We know who can't coach. We know who goes into the end of the game with 3 timeouts in his back pocket. Apparently, he thinks they roll over to the hot seat bowl. I don't know. Not my problem. But no, Miami is going to be Miami for forever. And I really think, I don't know. I'm really starting to think, and this is just from some stuff I heard, because I really thought Cam Ward wanted to go to Ohio State. I think he thought that video would make Ohio State reach out to him. I think he thought that he at some point would have communication with Ohio State. That's where that kid wanted to go. I don't care what anybody says. It wasn't Florida State, Miami, like honestly, to me, ever. Maybe some. But I think he wanted to go to Ohio State. And I'm sorry, there's not that much smoke to that kid.
Well, I mean, he's at Miami.
I understand.
That's all I was saying. That's all I was saying earlier. I don't know if you were like talking about what we went back and forth on.
No.
I agree with you 100%. That was his. He wanted to be Justin Fields. He wanted to be, Dwayne Haskins. He saw that. I agree 100%.
And so then he just, he put that video out, and Ohio State then the next day, wasn't it? Like almost the next day or 2 days later, got Will Howard, which Miami told no, by the way. He was on their campus, and they were like, well, we're waiting on Cam Ward. And Ohio State was like, screw it. We want Will Howard, So something seems fishy to me there. I don't know what it is, and I'm not saying anything about the kid. I'm just saying, is there something we're missing? Is there something we're missing?
I think it's the dad. Think about it. He never did any interviews. His dad did all the talking for him. And then when he did the declaration for the NFL, it was almost like his dad was like, sit down, say this, and we're gonna put it out.
I
that's
hate
the only,
that shit. I can't. It's so nasty.
I'm like, dude, he's been in college like 3 or 4 years. Like, he can't speak for himself. I mean, come on, man. So who knows? Mario and those guys may have gotten to the dad and was like, hey, look, we're gonna give you guys this, and the dad was like, okay, bet, and that was it.
Yeah, it goes to show, and I don't know, I can't speak on that. I don't know much about his father or anything, but I can tell you about DJU's father because we had him on the program. And, Mike Norvell, it's something we've gone back and forth and talked about, and something I want to talk about while I have everybody on and together right now. We hit on a little bit. When it comes to evaluation and building a roster, what between Derek Ray and what Mike Norvell has done is just, it's absolutely phenomenal. And regardless of how it went down, who is the first love, this or that love, they wanted DJU. DJ is the dude they picked. And when you talk and you hear, the more things you hear about him, it feels like post haste. You got your guy. You got the guy that's just going to fit the program perfectly. And who knows if we get, Toko, if DJU doesn't show up, and who knows who else we might get in that spring portal period. So I just can't speak enough. And this audience has heard me speak a ton about it. But is there a better evaluator out there in college football than Mike Norvell? Say what you want about getting the big names that everybody knows about. The hit rate out of the portal the past 3 years, people keep saying it's unsustainable, but I mean, he just keep doing it year after year after year with names that you haven't heard of, names you have heard of, people that were hurt, people that just hadn't seen the field. I mean, it just something about the character and the way they judge it, whatever their process, whatever their interview is, maybe whether it's being hard on them and not, blowing smoke up their ass. It just seems like our hit rate has been through the roof, similar to what, Jimbo had. It seemed like the first 3 years he couldn't miss out of high school. He was just every guy he got turned into be a stud. But anyways, if y'all had something to speak on, I know it's not a question, but it's unreal the hit rate. Yeah,
I mean, think about it. I know we didn't get him obviously, but KJ Bolden, they were the first to offer him in 2020, 3 years ago. First to offer Joshua Farmer. I mean, they're always one of the first to offer guys, and then ironically you see Mario and his squad come and offer afterwards, which is always funny to me. But yeah, I mean, as far as evaluators, I mean, they're among the best in the business for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, if you want a good example, just looking at these two schools in particular, I mean, look at Trey Benson. This was a guy that Mario basically had at his program, had an injury. He really did. He had 6 attempts for 22 yards at Oregon. And it's like you either one of two things happened. Either you didn't bring him to Oregon because you didn't think he was good enough at the time, because you took a running back. They took, I believe it was Henry Parrish the same year that from Ole Miss transfer that they when they didn't take Trey Benson, or Trey Benson didn't want to play for you because he knew the type of developer that you were. So, Mike sees something in him, takes him, and then it turns out, over 2 seasons, he rushes for almost, 1,900 yards and 23 touchdowns. So, they have shown, like you said, George, to be able to find obviously guys who are more of a can't miss, but they've also found some diamonds in the rough that have turned out to be NFL caliber players like a Jared Verse. And, you took a guy who was a rotational player like Jermaine Johnson, and he's a first-round draft pick. So, you trust the staff to be able to evaluate and then use the guys when they get them in as well. Because that's a big part, man. You can hoard all the talent you want. Unless you know what to do with it, it doesn't mean anything.
Facts. And guys, don't forget the number is on the bottom of the screen. We've been going at this thing for an hour and 31 minutes. We usually go 2 hours, but it's not like a set thing. We've still got 241 people in here. We'll play it by ear. So if you want us to keep going for the full 2 hours, you got to give us something to talk about. Questions, you can text them in, call them in, put it in the chat, whatever you want. But we've covered most of the bases again. Anything you guys have that y'all wanted to bring up? I know we're getting pretty deep into it.
Jesse just made me almost choke talking about Trey Benson. Like, did he not want to play for Mario? Did he see him? Like, I was just probably not.
Right. I mean, it's a fair question, because in the portal days, he could have easily followed him. If you thought he was that great and they were taking a transfer anyway, then, and that's a good point with the comment on the screen. I mean, again, you got a guy at Arizona State. I think he had like 230 something yards or something like that. And had 900 his first year, or some close to 900 or something like that at Florida State. So, you just look at, to me, it's he either didn't want to follow him, or Mario didn't think he was the guy that he wanted down there, because you took a transfer anyway. Mike took him against most everybody's advice. He caught some shit for that, to be honest, taking a guy with that level of knee injury, and look how it turned out. So, anytime anybody doubts them, again, this is why the guy gets paid $10 million, and you just kind of got to rely on his judgment, because he's never, he rarely gives you a reason not to trust what he's doing. And so until he does, I think you just have to kind of chill. And like when people were upset about the slow playing in the portal, it's like, man, this dude owns the portal. Like, he has given you no reason not to trust what he's going to do. They're just in a different position right now. They don't need bodies. They need dudes. And so they're looking for different pieces in the portal now. And so it's going to take time to filter through that.
They did it across the board. I mean, you're talking about not just production. You're talking about dudes who are blue chip, top of the line, grade A, top flight football players. Guys like Earl Little Jr., like, man, I cannot wait to see him. Just a little bit different level of guys across the board. And then we can speak on Patrick Surtain a little bit. And if something doesn't happen, we can close this thing off a little bit early. It doesn't matter. We'll just play it by ear, see how it goes. But what Pat Surtain did coming in, you talk about Earl Little Jr. and the guys coming in through the portal, but also Charles Lester, Jamari Howard. I mean, we signed the best DB class out of high school in the nation this year. The talent level is going through the roof. it's just you can't be more excited for 2024. I guess we could ask you guys. We don't have to do it, but what do y'all? We've talked about our ceiling and our floor. I've got it. We've got it around. I've got mine around 12 and 9. 8 being just it would have to be an absolute disaster. What are y'all thinking on y'all's win loss or ceiling floor estimations?
I would say first off, when you talk about being excited about 24, you got to be excited about even further than that too, because something that Kelvin mentioned earlier, the young quarterbacks that you got on the roster. I mean, like it's only getting better. You're just getting some really talented dudes in the meantime. I think, man, if you look at this schedule that Florida State has, you got to travel to Notre Dame. That's probably going to be a tough game. They got Riley Leonard at quarterback there. I mean, are you scared of Riley Leonard as a quarterback? No, but
Nope.
is he a good option? Like, would I be more worried about them with Sam Hartman? Probably so. Because he's more of a running quarterback. But I think you get Clemson at home. Miami might be a little bit tough with Cam Ward on the road. I don't know, man. You get Florida at home. I think with this one, I'm going 12-0 is your ceiling. Obviously, 13-0 if you win the ACC title game. And I'm with you, George. I think pending you stay healthy. And I think that's the big thing is you stay overall healthy. Not more than 1 or 2 guys go down with season-ending injuries or something like that. I think your floor is 9-3. I mean, I just don't see too many of these other – it's more about – like when I do the preseason previews, I take into account a lot of what Florida State has. And then I go look at everybody else. And that's really the key. And that's something that Kelvin said too, is like, you just got to look at where these other teams are falling. And when you look at some of the other teams, they don't have the portal prowess that you do. They are not bringing in the high school recruits in a lot of these cases that you are. So to me, I think when you look at everybody else, I haven't seen another team that's doing what you're doing as far as acquiring the pieces. So to me, I'm thinking 9 wins is your floor. If you stay healthy, 12 wins in an ACC championship is your ceiling. And then you get into the 12-team playoff. You never know what can happen.
I'm glad you said that because I think LSU LSU and Michigan maybe were the only 2 teams that had a top 10 portal and high school class coming into this year, and Michigan won the national title. LSU was headed into year 2. So, yeah.
Right. And
it bodes well.
People forget, man, like, there is still a very, very good chance that had first off Jordan not got hurt, but regardless of that, had Florida State not have got left out of the playoffs, you could be looking at a staff that won a national championship in year 4. So like that is because of the way the season ended. I think a lot of people are still like, is Mike Norvell that guy? Is he that elite level coach? Well, he could have been hoisting a trophy this year. We just were unable to find out in a fair way. So, yeah, man, I mean, you got to be excited with a staff that took over a program that was in the shape that it was and took it to a potential national championship level program in year 4. Anytime you have that, you trust what they're doing, and they've got some veteran guys to really kind of carry that bridge over to the younger talent that's on the roster. So I don't think they missed a step this year.
Hell yeah. So I've spoken for you guys, but I want to give both y'all a chance. Kelvin, let the people know what you got going on, what you're excited about, how they can find you, and all that good stuff. See if we get a few more calls after we do some plugs.
Yeah, man. I agree with Jesse also. 9-3 floor, undefeated ceiling. And we don't know when the games are going to be yet as far as the order. That can change things somewhat, just depending on when the games fall and all that good stuff. But yeah, you can find me, do all of my written work at chopchat.com. Obviously the YouTube channel is Built for Playmakers. You can find me there. On Twitter, KH ChopChat, and pretty interactive on all of those. And appreciate you guys tuning in and chatting with us, giving us some great questions and feedback.
Jesse?
Yeah, man. So plantthespear.com is our website. That's pretty much the hub for everything. I'll be perfectly honest, I got to get a little more motivated about writing articles on the regular. I kind of do in bursts, but you can always check out the YouTube channel, Plant the Spear. We have multiple recordings every week. It's also available in podcast form, Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to stuff. And also social media, Facebook. We have a Facebook group, Instagram, of course. And then Twitter's probably where I'm most active. Plant the Spear 1 until like Elon lets us have some, invade the old accounts that are inactive. We still got the 1 on the end.
That shit's aggravating, man.
It is, man. But yeah, appreciate everybody tuning in, and also appreciate you guys having me on because I always enjoy talking about Florida State with you guys. It's just a great group of people that you got here to talk about it as well.
So Kerry Watkins has a good question. Jen, I received a free membership from you this week. How do I keep it going? So the memberships, they're located right where the subscribe button would be. After you subscribe, it turns into join. It'll show all like a picture of like 10 of the members, and it says join right there. If you get gifted a free membership, if you want to upgrade it, you could, and that would lock you into the recurring payments, I believe. But if not, like Jen said, I think in the chat, you would just have to go in there and provide your payment information or whatever the case may be, just, whenever that month runs out to keep it rolling. But it should be really simple. Shouldn't be any issues for you. But Kerry Watkins, one of our biggest supporters. We appreciate you and glad you got that membership because you've been in here from the jump. And again, guys, if you want to keep rolling, give us a question. Other than that, we are getting pretty close to the end of this year's show.
Shout out to Jen's studio upgrade. I love the what you got going on there. Those are super awesome. I didn't want to let it go by. I love it.
Thank you. I got this for myself. It's a canvas of Doke at Night that was packed. I loved every minute of it. And that's my sign, Bobby Bowden, Tommy Bowden. And that is my sign, Chris Winky.
Love it.
Awesome. Absolute fire. I'm like the only one with the abyss kind of by me. I don't know what it is I like. But I'll have to get some logos or some overlays or something thrown up back there.
A man of mystery.
Man of mystery. There you go. All right, guys. I think that's a good spot right here to end this one off. We appreciate you for joining another episode of the Renegade Rundown. Thank you, Kelvin. Thank you, Jesse, for joining. Of course, Jen Santee at Jen Santee 1890 on X as well. Make sure you go follow her. Let's get her to 5,000. Thanks for all the members. We got over 1,800 subscribers during the show, so that's really cool. We love all you guys, and we will see you next time. And if you didn't catch us, we had Carlos Williams on Friday, and I will end this again with that trailer to that Carlos Williams episode, and you can go find it. Go ahead.
Wait. Tuesday we have the one, the only Rob DeLoach on the show, so please do not miss it.
Absolutely. Rob DeLoach and CJ Wilson will also be coming through for his On the Trail segment. So we will get you guys caught up on whatever is going by Tuesday, and we will see you then. Anything else?
That's it, man. Appreciate y'all having me on. Enjoyed it.
All righty. So I will leave y'all. I'll leave y'all with the trailer. And again, thank you guys. Thanks, Kelvin, Jesse, for always coming through, man. It's an absolute blast. And y'all get over there and subscribe, join, do all of the things. Make sure y'all are following them on social media and all that. But here's the trailer for the Carlos Williams episode. Y'all go check that one out if you haven't seen it.
The road tide. Fuck Tuscaloosa in every city that's close by. Bitch ass hillbilly redneck fans. Auburn almost caught y'all slacking like dress pants. Michigan trash, they ain't got a damn chance. Only Wolverine I respect is X-Man. Keen ass coach got exposed, still in plays. Damn right I'm bitter, y'all sweeter than lemonade. Texas ain't shit to rave about. The Longhorns only good at a steak.